Hey everyone, thanks for coming. Oop, getting this over here. Yeah, guys, thanks for being here again. Welcome to Girl Geeks Toronto for May. Yay, thanks Michelle. So the title of our event tonight is Mentorship, How to Find It, Learn from It, and Pay It Forward. And I think this is a topic a lot of us are very passionate about, especially our panelists, so really excited to have everybody here. As always, please feel free to follow along on Twitter with the hashtag GGTO or GirlGeeksTO. We love to hear your thoughts about what's going on on stage. So one challenge that many women in software development face, and in tech face in general, is a lack of mentorship. And I've heard this many, many times from many people, whether it's because there's fewer women in senior roles or, not knowing how to ask for help or just not even really knowing what you need at what stage of your career. So for this month, we were really excited to bring together this panel of women. Many of them are also software engineers by trade or engineers by trade. So, and they've built really amazing careers, so really excited to have them here to share their thoughts. We'll wrap with Q&A at the end, so if you can hold off till the end with your questions, that'd be great. If you need a clarification or anything like that, feel free to shout it out, but otherwise we'll keep the questions to the end. So who we are, this is your organizing team right here, myself, Anna, Kanya, and Amy, who you've probably met in the little reception area. And yeah, if it's your first time here, welcome. We are a meetup in Toronto focused on supporting women in technology. We put on tech talks every month, and we always want to hear from you if you want to hear a special topic or anything you want. We focus on having expert speakers from the community, as many women as we can get, and yeah, we're just here to have some fun and learn. But of course, don't let the name fool you. Boy geeks are always welcome. We see you out in the audience from up here. But of course, we always want to put a special focus on women in technology. So you can find us here most months at our meetups. You can find us online at Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. This event's being filmed, so if you know anybody that couldn't make it and wants to catch up on this after, it'll be up on our YouTube channel shortly. So a big thanks to our venue sponsor, Wrangle, for having us in this awesome space. Glafira is going to come up and just say a few words quickly about why you should join Wrangle. They're pretty awesome.
Why shouldn't you join, right? Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's our lovely space at Wrangle. So 2 things, just to let you know. We have a training coming up. It's the Angular 2 training. So if you're interested, please sign up. The link is up here. But if you don't have time to copy that down or write it down, take a picture. That's a great idea. Come see me. I'm just sitting right there at that booth. And I'll just take you through it. So the upcoming event is June 15th and 16th. You have plenty of time to sign up. But don't wait, because the spots fill up quickly. And quick note on, we're growing. So if you want to join our team, you can get at Roop@Wrangle.io. He's our VP of HR directly. That's his email there. If not, you can check out the Wrangle.io careers page. You're welcome to do that as well. Again, if you have any questions, come chat with me. I'm just sitting at the booth here. I can answer some of the questions for you as well. Other than that, we're good to go. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Wrangle. Girl Geek founder Caroline McGregor works for Wrangle, and she loves it here, so just a little shout out. And on the hiring note, a little birdie told me that Michelle in the front row is hiring a UX designer, if anybody's interested in talking to her at the end of the event. So thanks also to our financial sponsor. We can't do it without a bit of dough. GDR. I'm the marketing manager for GDR, for those of you who don't know. We recruit team members and executives for top tech companies in Toronto, from startups to large tech. And we always love to hear from great people, whether it's just to get some advice about what's going on in the job market or, just connect if you're looking for a new job or might be in the future. We'd love to hear from you. So come chat after with me if you'd like. Sad note, join us again in September. This is our last event for the summer. We usually break for July and August, but due to scheduling difficulties, we are not going to be... Don't make that face at me. We're going to just tell you have a great summer and really enjoy tonight's event. So now we'll invite up our panelists. Big round of applause for our panelists. Come on up, ladies. We have a really great group here, so I'm going to do my best to give them a little introduction, each of them. So I'll start from the end. Bhavana joins us all the way from San Francisco, from PubNub. She is a, yeah. Woo. Thanks for coming. She's here in Toronto for a week, so we're very honored to have her join us for tonight. So she's a developer evangelist at PubNub. She's also a seasoned speaker, a panelist, and an avid tech blogger. And before joining PubNub, she was at USC, where she earned her master's in computer networks. Common point, lots of smart ladies on this panel. Christina Truong is a web developer and educator who's taught over 900 students at Humber College, Ladies Learning Code, and HackerU. With over a decade of experience in tech these days, she offers workshops and coaching to support new and current developers to help bridge the gap between leaving school and entering the workforce. Very important. Actually, let's go to Vanessa. Vanessa Williams, next in line here. She has over 25 years of experience in software development and management as a developer, as a consultant, a tech executive, and a startup founder. She's currently senior lead developer at ThoughtWire and has worked in areas as diverse as scientific simulation, interactive 3D animation, computational biology, and enterprise software. Karen Bennet is an experienced senior tech leader with over 25 years experience. She's currently working on a new AI and machine learning focused startup, but previously worked as a senior engineering leader at IBM, Yahoo, Trapeze, as well as 2 startups, Cygnus and Red Hat, which have both grown into successful and sustainable businesses. Tina Goyal is an engineering manager at Terapeak and has over 11 years experience in agile software project management and product management. Over her career, she's worked with diverse teams and helped them adopt agile practices through training, facilitation, and coaching. And last and certainly not least is our moderator for the evening. Monika Piotrowicz is a director of front-end development at Shopify, where she has helped establish and now leads the front-end practice within growth and marketing teams and oversees new theme development, Shopify.com, and other product growth initiatives. She's focused on front-end development for most of her career and is really passionate about using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to build exceptional and inclusive UX and helping teams collaborate more closely to make smarter decisions about product and technology. Sorry, whoops, Monika, there we are. So yeah, as you can tell, a really great group of women up here. So I'm going to throw it over to Monika, and let's get started. Big round of applause, everyone.
Thanks so much for those great introductions. Can everyone hear me? Yes. I did turn it on. All right. Yeah? Okay. If anyone can't hear me, just raise your hand, I guess. Cool. So I'm really excited to be here talking to this incredible group of women. Mentorship is something that I've thought about throughout various points of my career, both when I was starting out and especially now as I think about, how can I potentially become a better mentor and kind of help others who are starting out. So there's a ton of topics that I hope that we get to cover today. But then again, as Anna mentioned, there's going to be a chance for some Q&A later. So would love to hear different perspectives from within the audience as well. So actually, to get started, I was actually hoping that each one of our panelists can maybe share a story of how a mentor or someone similar actually had a positive impact on their careers getting started. Okay. Bhavana?
Is this on?
AV is never easy.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. So I'm a baby at this in the sense that I started working literally a year ago. And so things like finding a mentor or actually mentoring someone is not something that I've formally had. But like she said that, I still don't know how to define someone as a mentor. So there have been people who have given me good advice, solid advice. And there have been people who have always listened to my ideas and acted as a sounding board. And it's always been great because I'm at that point where at least a year back, I was unaware of all the opportunities that I had out there, that were out there. And now I'm at that place where I know some of them, but I still don't know which one to go into. Just the kind of roles that are out there. When I started off, I knew just software developer or network engineer. Those are the basic roles that I knew existed. And then, but now I know much more. And this is all because of someone at some point has always told me these are, just by talking to people, they've always told me that these are the different roles that are out there. This is what you can try. This has been my journey. And so it's opened my eyes. So I still have yet to define or find a mentor in its true sense. But through this panel, I guess we can discuss how it has helped me grow in this 1.5 years as a software developer in tech.
Cool. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. I haven't had a formal mentor myself either, but I guess I think of a mentor as someone who has more experience than me that can help guide me to be a better person and in work and in life. So I did have someone kind of take me in early on, and it happened completely by accident. Well, not by accident, but naturally. Her name's Pearl Chen. I'm like, everyone knows who Pearl Chen is, right? But so I met her early on in my career, and she sort of just started off with, like, she asked me to be on a panel with her, and then we exchanged emails, and then she asked me to co-write a workshop with her, and it just sort of happened naturally over the years, and she became my friend, but I started to realize that she was a mentor to me as well, because she had more experience than me. And I looked up to her and her career and stuff, so it was nice to have a friend as a mentor, and that way she could just sort of help me with different opportunities and give me advice.
Cool.
Oh.
Is it on? Yes. All right. I'm going to answer that question a little bit backwards, because I have more experience of being a mentor than being mentored. I'll elaborate on that later, but most significant experience for me, I think, is having the opportunity to help junior people grow into technology leaders in their own right, and then seeing the amazing things that they've accomplished in their careers makes me very proud, and it's sort of the most fulfilling part of my job, probably, that I can say that after 30 years I did more than just sling code for the mortgage money and make other people rich. I actually left something good behind, not products, not companies, but people. So mentorship is important to me in that respect.
So it sounds like I've probably got equal amount of years of experience out there. I've been both a mentor and have had mentors throughout my career. I lucked out. I started my career at IBM, and they have a mentoring program. So you're actually assigned a mentor. However, as we go on through some of the questions, I would recommend you select your mentor, not having one selected for you. Because what I was taught at IBM was how to use my feminine body to manipulate men. Which is so foreign to me as an engineer. It was just like, oh, you want me to do what? Like wear a low-cut top? But I will say the one example of where I actually had to adopt another mentor, and I left IBM to go work for a startup called Red Hat. And it was me and 300 guys. So what was very important and what I had to be mentored is there is a different behavior with men. I had to become one of the boys network. Didn't sort of put down that I was a woman, but you do need to learn their rules and play it better than them. So I would suggest, and then on the flip side, I was a career woman. One of my mentors convinced me to have kids, and my daughter is actually in the audience today. And so I feel like she says I'm not her mentor, I'm her role model. But I now have, as of last week, an engineer. So she's passed her engineering. And again, yeah. So she's part of, one of the things that I do work with is with the government. And there is a real worry right now. We are not increasing women in the engineering, or they're calling it the STEM programs now. So as part of this, coming out to Geek Girls, I just want to see how we can get more women coming into our field. Okay?
I've had actually quite a few mentors, again, not officially, but I've actually seeked out quite a few. When I first moved to North America 9 years back, I wanted to make friends, and I wanted to learn how to speak, in the North American way, how to express myself, how to be better understood. And I joined Toastmasters. I don't know how many of you know about it, but it's a great place to be. Everyone can be a mentor there, and you can be a mentor to everyone. It's such a positive space to be in, very non-judgmental, very positive. And those are the kind of spaces I've sought all through my career, wherever I've moved. Just a couple of years back, I wanted to add more skills of coaching, so I seeked out and I reached out to someone at U of T who had a great coaching program, and now I know so many other great people there, a lot of them women actually, and that's what I do at work too. With my team, I run a formal, not really formal, formal for me, but not for anyone else because we're still a startup. But I coach my team one-on-one, and with the hopes that every one of them is able to be the best they can be. And that's where I see the role of mentorship lies. You need to find someone who can see the best in you and help you see the best in you.
Thanks for everyone's perspectives. It sounds like there's a lot of different types of experiences with mentorship, so I think that was really, really valuable. So I'm actually going to get started with some of the questions. So to start, different career phases have different challenges. What kind of help or mentorship did you find crucial in early, middle, and senior periods of your career? Is there anything you wish you had more support with?
I can go again. So I come from, based on your question, I'm going to answer the early stages of career just because I'm at that point in life. So like I said before in my introduction, is that coming from my undergrad, that's when I moved from India to here. That's when I was at that stage where I didn't know what I wanted in life. I didn't know what the different opportunities were. And now fast forward 2 years, or 3 years rather, after my master's, I am at that state where I know a few options that are out there for me, and I figured out in those 3 years that what am I good at, what can I be doing. There are, if you're good at speaking, there's something for you. If you're good at coding, there's something for you. There's always something based on what you're good at. So I feel like the mentorship that I am seeking out at this point, at least 3 years back would have been the point where I could have spoken to someone and someone could have told me, what the different options are there, because I'm so lost. Coming from India, it's a very different system there. So all you're taught is that it's like career choice by elimination. So it's like you're not good at drawing, don't join architecture. You're not good at this, don't be a doctor. If you're not good at talking, don't be a lawyer, that kind of thing. And so I happen to be good at math, and so I became an engineer, right? And so now that you're an engineer, you've studied 4 years of being an engineer. And then you're like, okay, what do I do now? And that's when I came here, and I was interested in computer networks. So I came here and I studied. But still, out of my master's, I didn't know what the different jobs were. And I happened to get an internship at this amazing company called PubNub where I work, where I came across this term called developer evangelist. And whoever knew, it's a role between marketing and engineering. So you're talking about a really technical product to very technical people being developers, right? So at this point in life, I want someone who can tell me, you're still just starting out. There are so many more things that you can explore. So someone who tells me okay, you figured out that developer evangelist is your cup of tea, you like it, but then there are so many more things, and I'm just starting out. Why should I just focus on one thing now? I can try out different things and see what I want to fit in. So the kind of mentorship that I am looking for, or at least people who I speak to, I'm just looking for them to open my eyes and tell me that these are the different options. If you want to try out sales, try out sales. If you want to try out marketing, try it out. That's because I lacked those kind of options back in India. It was I didn't get a chance to try out architecture and then decide whether I wanted to join that, right? I was just told that I can't. So now I'm in that stage where I'm okay, I want to try out different things, because I guess this will form the foundation for what I'm going to do, right? So I might as well try out a lot of things now and then choose what I want to be. So that's the kind of mentorship that I'm looking for. And so I forgot the second part of the question.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything you wish you had more help or more support with?
So I guess awareness would have been, like, if I wish I had that kind of awareness back in India. I guess it's part of it was me being ignorant. I didn't know. I didn't seek it out. But there was literally no one who told me that this is what is out there. You can try this. You could be a photographer. You just have to be engineer, doctor, lawyer, or something like that. Which, yeah. So that's my take on that.
Thanks.
I could build on that since we're sharing mics. I guess we can share questions too. So for me, early on in my career, it's kind of similar to what you're saying. Why I think it's important just to have representation. It's when you're part of a marginalized group, it's a little bit unfair that we have this pressure to like represent our group. Like sometimes you just want to be you, right? But you can't just be you. If you're the only woman, if you're the only person of color, the only whatever, people see you and you just represent that group. And so it sucks, but that's just how the world works right now. And so I think for me early in my career, if I just saw people like me, that would have helped. And as I moved up in my own career and became a teacher and sort of became the forefront, I saw how important it was to be myself so that people could see that you don't have to be one way. So early in my career, I just compared myself to everyone around me. And so I spent so much of my early career thinking that I wasn't good enough, when it wasn't that I wasn't good enough, it was the things that I was good at just wasn't celebrated, or it wasn't an option or presented as an option. So what I found that my skill was I worked as a developer, but I had the communication skills to actually talk about it. So I could talk to non-technical people, I could talk to technical people, and I didn't think that was a skill. I was like, oh, people just think I'm nice. I have to learn more code. I have to like build more side projects. I have to sleep, drink, eat code, instead of fostering this skill that I had that not a lot of people have. And so I didn't have really anybody earlier on in my career that I could see that even were able to make some kind of job out of this. So when I sort of fell into teaching, that was sort of what helped me to see that, there is actually a skill set that I have that's going to work, and I can still be in the tech industry. And now that I'm later on in my career and I'm trying new things and I'm kind of trying to create my own path, it really helps for me to have other people around me to sort of help, I guess, like validate that this stuff is needed or that my ideas are good. So it helps just to have sort of just moral support and just someone to be able to just run some ideas against. And to me, that's how I sort of think of as mentorship, is just getting someone to ask advice from.
Cool. And one more?
Yeah, sure. I was going to say that early on, early on for us was a very long time ago. So at that time, it was especially important for me, I think, to have women around me, senior women who were willing to share teaching moments with me. I was lucky at just the right time that I happened to work for a company that had a very high percentage of senior women. That's never repeated itself in the entirety of my career, but at the time, they taught me some valuable things, helped build confidence, especially in making decisions and standing by those. It's a very important skill. When someone asks you for an estimate or something, how long is this going to take, how much is it going to cost, you just have to answer the question and be confident that your answer is good. That's a skill nobody teaches you, and especially in it was completely male-dominated, really, except for that one little enclave. I really felt like an imposter, which I'm sure we can all relate to at some point. So now in the middle part of the career, I think gender started to matter, less or not at all. It was more, who can I learn something from? And it also became less top-down and more peer-to-peer. So I learned more from people like myself who knew things that I didn't. And then later, when you get senior, it becomes more difficult to find, sort of individual people from whom you can learn a significant amount, which means you have to be choosier about where you choose to work, the people who you choose to work with. Try to find smart people, surround yourself with smart people from whom you can learn. And finally, even with 30 years experience, don't discount how much you can learn from people who are much more junior than yourself, but just know things that you don't, right? None of us know anything, or know everything. Sorry. So it has changed, and also, of course, from the beginning, I was more of on the receiving end, and in the middle, it was a little bit more balanced, and now at the end, I do more, necessarily more teaching than learning, but not entirely so.
Do you want to keep going?
Yeah, I mean, we can keep going.
Okay, so similarly, sort of in the beginning, as been pointed out, it really is just finding your strengths and being able to sort of push them forward. It's interesting hearing the panel going forward, because that was my skill as well, is being able to bridge from non-technical to technical, and it's pushed me up in the organizations. It is a skill that a lot of developers and engineers do not have, as I'm sure you all are aware. And then so the only thing different in sort of my middle career path is I actually had a mentor, had been, my technical mentor, my advisor at work, but he was the one that suggested that I have a family. Very strange sort of advice. Best advice I ever got. I had kids, but it is a career. I was a career woman, and he got me thinking about, okay, there's some other aspects that I hadn't really thought about. And so again, this was a development manager that was suggesting sort of life choices for me to sort of think about. And then similarly, in sort of my later part of the career, I decided that I would do work with the government quite a bit, and some mentor going into high schools and public schools to give them sort of an idea about technology. I remember going into a grade 5 class, and at the time I was working for IBM, and we had the Dick Tracy watches and earrings that you could talk to your friend. Like, it was IoT in the early beginning days, but the girls took to that technology. Like, they could see it, they could feel it, it was amazing. It wasn't sort of the math and the coding, and I followed that class through all the way to the university, and there, by seeing women and men, people coming into the classrooms, we actually had a higher percentage of them going into the STEM sort of university degrees. So it really is important for them to see. And as I say, in my latter part of the career, I've been giving back. But what I learned by giving back, by mentoring, teaching, etc., I actually learned more from the people that I was mentoring than they learned from me. So don't ever think that your mentor knows all the answers. It really is this idea that you share a vision and you sort of collaborate and figure out, but it's you that have to decide the decisions. You shouldn't be just taking an advisor or a mentor's word on it and going for it. You really have to internalize it and make sure it's for you.
There's not much left to say, really. I think a lot of the things that I wanted to say have been said by other people, but I would like to share that, like Christina, when I was junior, when I just started my development career, and I was a developer as well, the only one on my team, of course, I felt out of place. I really did. And there were no female leaders that I could actually talk to. I felt a bit out of place. There was a men gang, and there was me. I did get a lot of appreciation about how, again, I could communicate with non-technical people, technical people, how everything I developed was great quality. At the same time, I still felt like, I needed to find my own path and do what felt great for me. And I wish, answering your second question, I wish at that point in time I had some technology female leaders that I could talk to, or someone who would actually show me different paths that people had taken. I'm still happy where I am right now. I think I found it eventually, and I'm still finding it. I mean, there's no one path, and it changes. But that would have been great. Just if nothing else, just to feel good about what I was doing and knowing that I wasn't an imposter and I wasn't doing, I wasn't less than other people who were on my team.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully some of those types of connections can actually be made today just by seeing like some of the great women leaders who are on this panel today. So very cool. So it is important to know what kind of help you want so that you can ask for it. Do any of you have any good examples in your experience of how anyone junior has asked for your help? Or do you find that perhaps those who are less experienced are struggling to define what they actually need help with? Go ahead.
Is this on? Yes, okay. Actually, I find the biggest hurdle is people don't ask for help at all. A lot of people don't. And even worse is that they'll deny that they need help if you go and ask them, how are things going? You need anything? Everything's fine. I don't need anything. And then they crash and burn. And I mean that literally, this is a very, very bad thing to do. It's a career-limiting move. I've never seen it end well. So first thing, ask. Learn to ask. Get over your inhibitions and ask. As far as knowing what to ask or knowing how to ask it, I have noticed that young people, or juniors, let's just call them, people less experienced people tend to have difficulty asking the question in a concise manner. They tend to focus on what isn't working as opposed to what the problem is that they're trying to solve, which for me is very difficult because I need context. You're just babbling at me when you just start talking about, I'm doing blah, 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 and it's not working. I have to keep telling them to back up. What are you trying to do? Usually they're just so far wrong that it's not a question of fixing it, but just doing something different. So there's that. Another thing is that they don't share the same terminology and concepts that more senior people do. So when you can communicate with your peers with, shorthand about design patterns or, whatever, historical concepts that you know about that they don't. So they literally just don't have the language to ask the questions properly. That's not their fault, obviously. So a good part of mentoring is to help them learn the terminology. And my boss actually made a good suggestion about that earlier today, which is he likes it if people talk to him when things are going well, not just when they're having a problem, so that they learn to communicate and say, see, this is what I'm doing, this is how it's going, what do you think? And that helps so that when they get to a problem, they actually have practice communicating their issues. So.
No, sorry. So again, just to answer the question, I go out and speak quite a bit to public schools. And I remember, one of my questions that I always ask sort of the juniors, like to me, those are the juniors. They're not even in the companies yet. And I had a little girl, I was asking why she didn't want to go into engineering or the STEM programs. And she said, my dad is an engineer and he's never home. I do not want to ever go. And I remember thinking, oh my God, how do I answer that? Because it is true that in this industry, we tend to put in extremely long hours. So you just need to get the context of some of the junior people, and as was pointed out, sometimes we don't talk the same language. I know having kids now, they're training me on, the social media, you name it, like Twitch. I don't get it why people watch other people's playing games, but this seems to be a new world. And so you really, if you get a mentor, you need to figure out sort of that language or communication vehicle.
Oh, yeah. So I guess I understand when you say that we don't know what to ask, because I've faced that. But the way I go about it is I keep my eyes and ears open all the time. So just like panel discussions like this, I try to attend different meetups and panel discussions, both which talk about people's personal lives as well as technology. Because then I take what I learn from that, like people's journeys, people's struggles, or people's like success stories, and I go to my manager and say, hey, this cool person's doing so-and-so, how do I get there? So that's one way that I try to define what I want by just listening to different people and different stories, and then taking it back to, I say manager because at this point, they're the ones I go to for advice. Or maybe I should find someone outside of work. But currently, it's like my peers or my managers at work, and then I'm like, I want to be so-and-so. How can you help me get there? And that's how I define my problem.
Very cool. So have any of your employers encouraged more senior devs to mentor more junior ones? And what structures were there in place? It sounds like a couple of you have come from kind of very structured mentorship environments.
Sure, I think the two of us will have very different answers, but that's good. No, I've never worked anywhere where there's a formal mentorship program. Mostly I worked for startups and small companies and that kind of thing. So, but I think the most effective way to do it is to have a culture of communication, respect, and collaboration, so that the mentoring is not just top-down, it's kind of all-way. Right, so where you're learning from everybody on a daily basis. This is kind of the ideal culture for it, and it's not restricted to particular times and places. It's just throughout the workday. We have a thing where I work called pairing, which is just, it's not pair programming like in XP. It's just literally, you're stuck, you don't know what to do, you're not sure about your approach. You just go grab somebody, anybody who you think can help you. They come and sit next to you and get you unstuck. And a big part of that is also not just the willingness to ask, but the willingness to, immediately respond and give that help, which is where the respect and communication part comes in, and the sort of like encouragement of collaboration. So I guess I'm more in favor of this kind of web of mentorship as opposed to a kind of a top-down structure, just because I've never actually had any experience with that. So perhaps.
Yeah. So I've seen both, being on sort of the big business and the startups. I would echo the same thing. It really is a web. When I worked for both IBM and Yahoo, they have a very formal mentoring program where HR actually pairs you up based on your interests or your work description. One thing that with that top-down approach, we felt, or it was part of the program, that you could never have your sessions or your discussions within the building itself. You actually had to go get a beer, go have lunch or stuff, because it just breaks down some of the barriers. But again, my best sort of mentoring that I've done as well is when they get advice from a number of people, this concept of a web. I wouldn't rely on your company, pairing you with the right person, to be honest. And again, it really is what part of your life cycle you're at, because you might be paired. I remember my days at IBM, I was paired with some senior women that it was just very driven. All they wanted to do was get to the top, and it didn't matter how they got there. And I heard lots of stories. But that wasn't my nature, so that pairing didn't really work. So anyway, I would encourage you to use the web, or just get multiple advisors based on whatever you need to get advice on.
I can add a little bit here. Again, I've always worked with smaller companies or startups and never had a formal mentoring program. At the same time, I think, senior devs can provide a lot of information and a lot of skills, and if they have the right attitude and there is the right collaboration going on in the team, they can be role models for junior developers onto how to approach problems, how to acquire new skills, how to broaden or deepen your expertise. These are regular questions that we have as a developer. Should I go full stack? Should I really go deep into UI? These are just regular questions, and sometimes, like Karen, you said, and you, Vanessa, sometimes having different kinds of senior developers around you helps, because some person would actually go wide and another person would go deep, and then you can actually see for yourself, what path do you want to take based on seeing how other people have ventured out. And I think as a leader, if you're a leader in a team or a company, then what you want to do is actually create a culture where people are comfortable having these discussions, opening up and talking about, hey, I really don't know where I'm going, because a lot of places people are not comfortable opening up and asking those questions. And that's what I try to do, is make it a very open place to have some of those conversations.
Yeah. So this actually dovetails really well with the next thing that I wanted to talk about. So we talked a little bit about kind of more formal, structured relationships, but I wonder if any of you have any experience with, let's say, a micro mentorship with people you may admire. So maybe you only have coffee with this person once a while, or there's someone whose thought leadership you might follow online, and so you kind of keep track of what they're doing. Does anyone have any thoughts on kind of this, let's call it micro mentorship? Go for it.
Okay, so I have some. Wait, no, I'm muted. I know how to use tech things.
You're good.
I have some thoughts on this as of late, just because I am on the receiving end a lot more now of people asking me for my advice. So on one hand, it's extremely flattering, and on the other hand, time. So I would say that if you're looking for mentoring, I don't think you necessarily need formal mentorship. And I think if you do want very formal, okay, once a month we check in, we come up with like a plan, I think you need to pay somebody to do that. Because at that point, they're basically your coach. So I'm not sure how people feel about that. But I do think the casual one-offs can get you far, whether you're just following somebody on Twitter, you're reading the articles that they write. I don't think you even necessarily have to even reach out to them sometimes, right? A lot of times people write these articles and stuff because people ask them about it all the time. And so it takes me 20 to 45 minutes sometimes, just somebody will just email me and say, hey, I like your work and had some questions about stuff. And I'm just like, oh, I want to help, but I can't answer all these emails. So I think you have to be very cognizant of their time. So finding ways to get that interaction, but being very mindful of their time. And also the channels. So I personally really like Twitter because I think it's just a really easy way to just follow people that you admire, and then that way you can see what kind of work they put out. I've seen people who will just say, okay, I'm holding office hours, you can sign up. So if you want to talk to them, then you know that they're actually offering that time now. You don't have to ask for it. Or maybe they're speaking at an event somewhere, and then you can go meet them there. So I find that the social channels are really a really good way to get that advice without imposing on their time. And again, back to the idea of understanding which channel, like Twitter is not the best place to just ask someone, how do I become a web developer? Like, I can't answer a question like that in 140 characters. So I think that being very mindful of that helps as well. And if you are needing some very formal coaching, I think that helps as well, but that's when you're like really ready to make some kind of moves and you want someone to keep you accountable, someone to guide you, someone to give you a plan. And that, to me, quick plug here, this is what I'm working on as my personal business. I think that should be paid, because then that is a very structured relationship. That's time investment. But if you sort of need that very regular check-in, you want an actual plan, you want a to-do list, you want someone to keep you on track, you want someone to keep an eye on you, all that stuff. I think that's probably not needed as often, but when it does happen, then you'll probably, that's when you're ready to make like a really big career move, and you have to think of it as an investment, right? And I think a lot of times when we do this kind of work, it almost feels like, I know I feel bad expecting to be paid to help somebody. Like, shouldn't just helping somebody out of the goodness of my heart isn't that enough? But at the end of the day, it does take up people's time. So even if they care about it and really want to, just always be cognizant of the time that's being put into it as well. And it's an investment in you, and it's their time. So that's my 2 cents.
I just have like a quick thing to add. Like she was mentioning Twitter, I find Medium a really good source, just because everyone just like pours their heart out on Medium somehow. It's happening. So when I want to like think about stuff that I can't take to my manager or my peers, and like more like personal stuff, how do you deal with things? I turn to Medium to look for articles where people are always writing about cool things, and then when you sign up for it, it literally comes to your inbox every day, which is really cool. So I just wanted to add that that's another source that I go for inspiration and ideas and things like that.
And similarly, I just wanted to add another couple. One of them is Quora. You can follow me on Quora if you want. I do answer career questions sometimes. That's one good resource. And one that I found very useful for myself is open source projects. If you join an open source project that's well run and where submissions are actually properly accepted and reviewed, you can learn an incredible amount from. So people don't generally take code reviews at work very well, right? They get all defensive and they don't feel very good about it. So I kind of don't really think that's a great mentoring tool in the workplace. But in open source projects, it seems to work quite well. You submit a patch, somebody makes a comment about it, and so on. And this is a great way to learn. Also, just looking at a mature code base that's nothing you've seen before is a great way to learn. So that's another resource.
Just a couple of other resources, because we've been talking about how do you further your skills. I personally know within companies I've been with, there's a lot of conflict between men and women. So, whether it's sexual harassment or it's not, you just need to learn to behave there. So I actually used to mentor quite a bit on sisters. I don't know if anybody is part of the sisters group, but you can get more sort of mentoring advice on some of the non-technical type of things of being in this industry, as well as there's MentorNet. If you're looking for a mentor, as you say, these people have agreed to donate X amount of time. I don't know if there's a cost anymore, but as was pointed out, mentoring, you don't want just the one-ofs. Like, you need somebody that's going to be there on a consistent basis, that you can start a dialogue, get to know that person, and whatnot. So I would encourage you to go seek out MentorNet if that's of use to you.
I think micro-mentor relationships are actually the most efficient ones, because you're not spending time actually, introducing yourself or trying to build a long-term relationship, and it works for the other person because they're not spending any time. For me, I would consider reading a book a mentor relationship. I felt like I love David Allen's work. If there is an area of life that I want to improve upon, I seek out an author whose philosophy I like, and I start reading, start following. Some people have podcasts, just follow. I follow their podcasts and like Medium and Twitter, and even I think even teachers, like if you're doing I don't know, if like I take yoga, so like even my yoga teacher is my micro mentor in that way. She's teaching me how to use my body better, So for me, I mean, I have micro mentors in all areas of life, and I'm sure so do all of you. It's just recognizing that we do and making a conscious effort of making better use of it, maybe.
I have a couple more resources that I thought of. Where's Jessamine? I'm going to shout out codementor.io for you. So you can sign up and find people to help you write your code. And there's this other site, I think it's called coach.me. I think that's the website. And, I just lost it. Okay, maybe I'll remember later, but I had another one that places for you to find help. Hopefully it'll come back to me.
Maybe we can compile some of these and post them on the Meetup site, just so that they're all available to you guys in case someone didn't catch all those resources. But those are really, really great. Thank you. So moving topics just a little bit. On the flip side, are there any common mistakes that you've come across when either giving or getting career advice? Anything that people might want to avoid or improve on when they're in those mentorship, whether formal or informal settings? Go for it.
Okay, I have something I really need to get off my chest. So the piece of advice that I just hate now is fake it till you make it. I hate it because, well, that kind of goes to your point earlier. If you're faking it, you're not going to ask for help, right? So imposter syndrome has become like a big buzzword too. When you are learning, you are not going to know it because you are learning. That is called learning. That is not imposter syndrome. You have to achieve something first before you can have imposter syndrome. So you can't really confuse that with learning. So part of learning is being uncomfortable. Part of going into a new job is doing something you've never done before. All of that stuff is scary and uncomfortable. But that's part of doing something new and part of learning. So if you're constantly being told, just fake it till you make it, then you don't have imposter syndrome, you're just an imposter. So, right? And so instead of faking it till you make it, and I know it's like much easier said than done, but you have to try to be honest with yourself in terms of owning that feeling, like, why do I feel fear? Why do I feel unease about this next step? Is it just because I haven't done it before? Have I ever actually even failed at anything I've tried at before? Or is it just the fear of doing something new? And so you have to just sort of trust yourself, weigh the options. What's the worst that can happen if I do this thing and I fail? Or I apply to speak at a conference and they don't accept my talk. What's the worst that can happen, right? You have fear of rejection, but if you don't do it, it's never going to happen anyways. So instead of just faking it, just try it and see what happens. And so, yeah, let's try not to give that advice anymore.
Good advice.
I just have something to add as well. So, like she said, like if you don't try something, you're not going to know, first of all, if you're good at it. And you're never going to know how it feels. So, like, starting off as a developer evangelist, like, I knew that some part of it involved having to talk to developers, tell them what the good and the bad of the product that you work with are, and going to conferences and speaking, and even speaking at meetups, etc. So, like, all through high school and even undergrad, like, I was never part of debate teams or never part of public speaking and things like that. And so the first time I joined, and in 1 month, my CEO was like, yeah, Cisco's having this huge conference. It's meant for all startups. You're going to go present because you built this demo. And I was like, wait, what? Because it's like a huge room, only executives and startup owners and founders, things like that. And but somehow, I never said no. And I do that till date. Like, every time someone comes and say, hey, do you want to do this? Like, it seems like a good opportunity, and I never say no. Also because I don't know, I just say, yeah, okay. And then later I'm like, wait, why did I do that? But, so leading up to it, I'm like really tense. But once I go through it, I feel so great. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I feel really great. And now my confidence level just talking to people has increased so much. So I guess this is not like career advice, but I'm just saying, like, if you had the opportunity to try something, just do it and don't not, because then you'll figure out, okay, that was bad. But then you'll figure out whether you're good at it or not and whether you like it, which wouldn't have happened if you didn't even try it. And the bad career advice that I've got is that I didn't get any career advice. Like I told you, right? In India, there's nothing like that. So just keep your eyes and ears open. Just always keep talking to people. Back in the Valley, we call it informational interviews. I guess it's a thing here as well. So you just meet people for a cup of coffee in one of the hippie joints over there, and you're like picking their brain, talking about what they do and things like that, which is actually helpful. And people are always up for that because they're always looking to either recruit people, they're looking for fresh talent, and for you, it's the other way. You're looking to join cool companies. So everyone's just like, can we meet for a cup of coffee and then talk about this, know about all the roles in their companies. Just meeting all these people, you know so much more. So I would say that that's one thing you could do.
All right. Next.
I try not to give career advice.
So turning direction again a little bit, do you guys think that mentorship could be one possible solution to the retention problem of women in tech? I think that's something that a lot of companies are talking about right now. How do we not only bring women into technology, but how do we keep them there? What are your thoughts on the role that mentorship could play in helping solve that?
If I may start, I think it would definitely help. Especially as women start their families. I know when I had my daughter, it was tough getting back to work. It was tough. And again, not having role models doesn't help either. If you have someone who's gone through it and actually tells you all that they went through, because you feel like you're the only one going through it. But then again, if there is something like mentorship and other people can share with you what they went through and all the stuff they felt and all the difficulties they overcame, how it made them stronger, I think it would help women, help companies retain, female talent and help them see a way to grow in a technology company, which is usually male-dominated.
Right.
So just a little bit more on that. I participated in a survey that looked at a lot of technical senior women, like the CEO of IBM, CEO of Yahoo. There was a whole bunch. And the key elements or attributes that all of these leaders pointed out was mentoring is key, having somebody that you can talk to, advice. And, it's more than mentoring. It's having, I call it the old girls network. So you can talk to other women. But another key factor, and I'm bringing it up as you're a lot of young women mothers, it's the father influence. So if your father believes in you as a woman, that you can do anything that you set your mind out to, you'll probably succeed in this business. So interestingly, those were the two key factors that our senior role model women that have made it up the corporate ladders are claiming are the two key factors.
Something. I think this was something that I did early in my career where when I did see someone or meet someone that I thought was like me, I sort of automatically assumed that they would want to help or could help. And then I found out that that's not always the case. So I think, at the end of the day, we're all sort of trying to make it, right? Some of us choose to do it in different ways. Unfortunately, some choose to do it by following the status quo. So I think you can't be disappointed or expect that just because this is another woman or another somebody that you think you could relate to, you can't really expect that of them either. And sort of to what you were saying too, your mentors don't have to even be other women or like someone who looks like you. It's just your mentor is someone that understands and can able to help you further your career and what it is that you need to do. And again, I think mentorship and representation is kind of related. Sometimes all you need to do is just to be able to just see someone or have someone there. I had a student ask me for a tampon after class one time, and it's such a small thing, but for her, she was like, this is so nice that I have a teacher that I can actually ask this, right? And so it's such a small thing. I worked at a place where it was mostly men, so when the first woman got pregnant, they didn't know what to do. In terms of, like, they didn't have any, like, the mat leave stuff, whatever, set up. So it just wasn't something that they thought about. So if you're a woman who plans to have kids sometime and then you see places like that, you might not want to work there, right? So even just being able to just see people and kind of taking from that, like, okay, I can at least just see that there are other people here like me doing the things that I want to do.
I have actually heard this question several times before, and my only reluctance about it is that it's a chicken and egg problem. There are so few senior women in tech at the moment that bootstrapping that whole process it's necessary but not sufficient, because it will take decades for us to get there that way. So it's a small part of the solution, but it's a much bigger problem than mentorship can solve.
So, I mean, I think a lot of conversations like this are happening in the Valley, with companies like Facebook and Yahoo and Pinterest, and a lot of them have actually banded together to actually encourage successful women in development to help each other to try and build some of this network and, at least chip away at this kind of bigger retention question. Do any of you have any thoughts on how the Toronto tech community can actually start nurturing more mentorship and those types of relationships here? As someone from the Valley, maybe you can.
I mean, I'm not from here, so I don't know how the tech scene is here, but going by what you guys are saying, probably the same kind of problems. I feel that one way that the tech community itself can get better is within your office, that environment where they let you work on whatever you want to. Like if you say, hey, I'm interested in this, then they give you that freedom to let you do that. Is a good way to begin, because now you have so many people who with similar interests doing the same thing in your peers who are doing the same thing. And then you can be like, if she can do it, I can do it. And if you're going to give me that confidence, if you're going to give me that freedom to work on something that I want to, then you're going to get more confidence to stay in that field, right? Like, otherwise you're just going to be like, hey, no one's like giving me the opportunity to work on something that I'm passionate about. Let me just go find something else to do. So I feel like you can start at the office itself by having a much better collaborative, open environment where everyone can go to everyone for any kind of solid advice, be it personal or career-wise.
So just a few words on that. So I actually belong to both Google's and Facebook's Women in Technology group. I would encourage you with this new thing called digital. You don't have to be just in Toronto. You can participate with women around the world. In fact, I also belong to Women in Technology in Europe because I spent some time over there and got to know some of the women. But personally, for the Toronto area, I think it's groups like Geek Girls that are going to help you at least find people of similar interests. Of course, there's going to be the people that you work with, but it really is, so again, I started my career at IBM. There's probably 50 women. We no longer work for IBM, but we collaborate and discuss topics on a very regular, at least monthly basis. So you just got to get a band of people, wherever they might live, that share some similar interests. Interesting enough, the CEO of Yahoo, when she became pregnant with her twins, she reached out to a lot of us women that were mothers. So it was interesting. She was looking for mentors. because she was entering a new stage in her life that she didn't know how she was going to be able to balance sort of the crazy workload with having a family. So you'll find that there's lots of people in the world similar to yourself, and as was pointed out, I think it might be a good idea to start with Geek Girls and just know a number of places that you can go to reach out to sort of different women and get some mentors. Or, again, I'm going to keep saying it, a women's network is priceless because you will run into your career where the old boys network are talking over here. And then, the women on how to do it better than what they're talking. Because to every company I've been in, the women are actually very, very good. They just don't know how to play by the boys' rules. So it's very easy to learn and excel.
Cool. So I guess this brings us to just about the end, but I would want to ask one last question on if anyone has any final tips on how people can actually find mentors, and if anyone has any stories of whether or not you're actually being mentored right now. If any of you currently have mentors.
I'll go first. So I'm still at the process of trying to find a mentor, but I realized that, after talking to a couple of people, I realized that it has to be very organic. You can't just go around saying, trying to find the one. It's like you can't tick off check boxes saying, okay, she or he satisfies all these criteria, and so you're my mentor. You're So I think as you keep talking to more and more people, you realize that they get you, you get them. You can bounce off ideas through them. You can see what, if they're going to be a positive impact on your life, right? So you can't literally, I guess the whole, sometimes when companies try to pair you, it really doesn't work. So it's the same way where you're going to find a mentor as well. And it needn't be that formal. Like you said, you don't have to call someone a mentor and then it can be a friend, it can be family, anyone. So that's how I'm going to go about this myself. I don't know if I'll get a mentor for life, but there'll be so many people in different stages of life who will be that for me.
I don't have any formal mentor right now. Again, we talked about micro mentor relationships, which works for me right now with a young family and lots of work. That's the amount of time I can spend. At the same time, I think it's important to get different perspectives, from people who are similar. But I find valuable lessons to learn from male tech leaders. I think as women, our brain works differently, our biology works differently, and sometimes for me, my husband's in tech as well, and I just talk about a situation with him and just try to get his perspective. And sometimes it's great to hear a different perspective. So in a way, I wouldn't call him a mentor, never to his face, no, ever. Not even here.
We can edit that out, don't worry.
Yes, please edit that out.
Right?
But I think it's good to, for me, it's good to just have someone, a friend, a sibling, a parent, whoever, to talk to just get someone who will be honest and give you a different perspective than what you have on the situation. And just that, I think just having that is a great asset.
So, yes, I have a mentor. It's the same mentor I started my career with, so we're 25 plus years together. It is a male. So it's actually similar to what I was just saying. One of the things that entering this business that I just didn't get was how a man thinks and sort of those rules. And so having this mentor that I can go and ask and get advice has really helped me in my career path. And I will reiterate, I strongly encourage everybody to get a network of women that you can chat with. as to where you can go, I've offered to give Anna, and I'm sure the other panel members, places that you can actually put your name in. So actually just hearing the comment, so my generation didn't do this, but my kids are getting their other half by, harmony.com. So maybe we should create an app or something for mentorship. Because again, my son came up with this idea of doing a ladder thing for gamers so that you match people. So there, if you had a checklist, maybe you could have, a shorter list of people that are sort of equal to you. It might be an interesting idea for us to do.
Very cool. All right. Thanks, everyone. I think we have a couple minutes for some audience Q&A.
Yeah.
If anyone here has any questions that they'd like to ask the panelists.
If you don't mind waiting for the mic, we're filming, so we'll just pick that up. And if anybody does start that app, I think you owe Karen some royalties.
Yeah.
Does anyone have questions? Just raise your hand. I'll come around with the mic.
So I actually just underwent the Iron Ring ceremony a couple months back. Thanks. And one thing that I thought was really interesting was that during the ceremony, one of the speakers actually said something that was kind of inappropriate in a sense that it was a little sexist, but it wasn't something I noticed. It was something that all of my male colleagues noticed. And they actually wrote a letter to the board and said this is unacceptable. Do you guys think that there's a way that you can encourage kind of the junior guys coming in as well as the junior girls to sort of figure out a way to make it acceptable for them to speak up for the women as much as it is for the women to speak up for themselves?
Actually, I wouldn't mind answering that one just because I get a lot of questions from women working in environments that are not that comfortable for them. And my situation right now is not like that at all, because the entire culture is very, the men that work there, they want to work with women and they have respect for women, and it's like it's part of the culture of the company. And you would be amazed at how many. Also, look on Quora if you see questions on Quora, where women asking about, how do I deal with such and such a thing, and you will be amazed at how many men jump in, with that's totally unacceptable and whatever. So there are, especially these days, I think quite a lot of men who are very supportive of how difficult it can be for a woman to kind of fit into that. It's not the same as it was 30 years ago. It's much better now. So again, I kind of come down to this. Sometimes you have to be picky about who you choose to work with, and that can make a big difference.
I have something to add. This is another one of those easier said than done things, but I think if you can be more vocal as well, that they might not know it's a problem until you say something, right? So if you just say hey, that's not cool, what you just said, then they might actually catch themselves and say, oops, I didn't realize that. But again, I know that's not always easy. And it comes back to the thing that I said a little while back about being a representative for your group. It kind of sucks that your life is like somebody's teachable moment. But sometimes there will be an opportunity for you to kind of just seize that moment and just give them a little bit of education, because they might not know it's a problem until you tell them it's a problem. And also taking the responsibility of it. As much as we're sitting here talking about, women in tech, I know so many women who have behaved just as those things that we say men do. And so it's our, I guess it's everybody's responsibility, right? It's not just evil men against women. Sometimes we do it to each other. Sometimes we don't tell them when it's a problem. So I think just being more open to it and just trying to be a little bit more vocal. And my first defense is always I just get angry and walk out of the room. But if you can try to calm that down a little bit and not come at a defensive mode and just sort of take a moment to educate if you're in the mood. Okay, that's it.
Hi. Thank you so much. I think everything you guys said was amazing. I myself am a mentor, and I'm a big supporter of women in technology and women starting their own businesses. So I have some advice for the lady at the end here. If you want to know what you're good at and what you're not good at, start a business, because you have to do everything. You'll find out pretty quick what you're good at and what you're not good at.
I guess I realize that I'm not good at taking risks. So I don't know how that's going to work for me. But that's solid. Okay.
Yeah. Just do it.
Better do it soon, because when you get too old, it's too late. Yeah.
So my friend sitting at the back there, both of us have this idea to start a dog cafe. So maybe we should just get started with it.
Do it.
The second thing I wanted to mention was the digital media zone. We have a representative here. They have 80 advisors that work to help out startups, and they're very pro women in tech there as well. They had a program last year to support women in technology. So if you're looking for mentors, that would be a place to find those people. And one more comment. When I finished school, I'm a little older than you are, this was pre-internet. And people kept saying to me, what do you want to do? You've graduated, what do you want to do? And I had no idea, to the point where I said to people, what do you do? And they're like, well, I work as an engineer, or I work as this, or I work at that. And I said, okay, yeah, but what do you do? And they're like, well, we do this. I said, okay, you go to your building, you sit down at your desk, what happens? So I turned this question on my niece, who's 16, and her mother is a CEO of a aerospace company. And I said to her, what does your mother do? Oh, well, she's the boss. I said, yeah, but when she goes to work and she sits down at her desk, what happens? She had no idea. And I think to get women and young women start thinking about what their career could be, we should ask them that question. What happens when you sit at that desk? Because it takes the mystery out of being an engineer. It takes the mystery out of creating software. It makes it more tangible when you can be really more specific about what that looks like.
Oh my God, I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, that's a really cool point.
Hi, guys. Cool. Okay, so as a follow-up to Michelle's point, who I am shamelessly going to be coming to speak to you soon because I want to learn about UX, but we'll take that offline. Sort of in that vein, I left school a little while ago. This is my first meetup, by the way, so thanks for having me, everybody. I'm one of those people who's like, I have no idea what I want to do. I have no idea what's out there. I totally empathize with you. And my question is more directed to you ladies in the middle. I can't really imagine the way the industry has changed since when you first started out. And I can't even, it changes year over year. And I'm having a lot of challenges because I'm hearing in a lot of my workplaces, well, I think you really need to go off and figure out exactly what it is that you'd like to do, and then you can come back to us. And I'm having trouble with, I'm pretty sure the jobs I want don't exist yet. I'm pretty sure that my parents said that none of these jobs existed when they were younger, and they never would have known about that. And it's a little bit challenging so it's a two-part question. I'm interested to know if some people are like, I've known since I was 4 years old that I wanted to be a doctor. So my whole life, I just was aiming towards one thing. And if that's not, A, was that your experience? And B, what advice might you have if that end goal is not a tangible thing yet? How do you brush through how do you see the field that's not there? Do you know what I mean?
I will take a crack at it. So you're right. You can't imagine how much things have changed at all. And but my advice is, I always think of a career, and this is kind of why I don't really like giving career advice, because everybody's career is a unique thing. It's like your life. It's a thing that you make, and you make it yourself. And so I don't think that it's important to know an end goal. In fact, I think that would be counterproductive. I think what matters is that you know what you would like to try next. Also, most important thing is to recognize what's not working. Like if something isn't working for you, if you are in a job or a role or something that is just not working out, you need to recognize that quickly. Think about, well, okay, what is wrong with this picture? What would I like to do? And then make the movement. You know, what do you need? All you really need to think about is what you need to do to get to the next step that pleases you at that moment, and let it grow organically to the end. I don't think that I ever met anybody, well, that's not entirely true, but it's very rare for people to know, like, this is what I want to be, you know, unless it's an astronaut or something. And it's even if you do try to go for that end goal, there's so many things that can derail you for better or for worse, right? You might just find something you're more interested in. So I think just one step at a time. What's the next thing that I want to do? What's the next thing I need to do? And just take it from there and let it grow.
So again, been in the career, I can't say the same type of thing. It has changed. It's for the better. You would never even probably imagine, but that's a different story we can do over beer or something. I actually started my education I wanted to be a doctor. And I took as an elective these crazy little programming courses that I thought, would be fun to learn. I switched after my second year in sort of the science side to go over to computer science because there was all these guys. I was like, oh my God, 1 girl or 3 girls to 100+ guys. Little did I know that they're a different type of guy. However, similar advice, there is no way that you will come to decision-making points all through your career where you're going to have to choose something. I am now in a company that does machine learning and AI, fascinating area if anybody wants to learn, or we're looking for people. But the jobs that are coming out of this technology, nobody has any skills for yet. I didn't even know what a data scientist was before I joined this company. And I'm not even sure the data scientists know what the job is. But with AI and some of the technology that we're seeing bring forth, the jobs that we're all going to be doing, 5 years, 10 years from now, are going to change drastically. My daughter went to biomedical school, and she keeps telling me, in the next 5 years, we're all going to be cyborgs, you guys. So some part of our body is going to be mechanical. So who knows? You can no longer, doctors are not going to be able to sort of do the surgery. You're going to need an engineer that understands the mechanics. Yeah. So again, the advice that Vanessa said, don't give up. If an employer is telling you that you need to go figure out what you want, wrong employer. Because I have changed my career and the technologies that I'm using for the last 25, 30 years. The only stable thing in this sort of industry is you need to love to learn, because everything is going to be coming at you. It's different. And we heard earlier on, you shouldn't be afraid to ask questions or learn. Learning is part of society these days. Those that don't engage in some of this, unfortunately, are probably going to be left behind. So again, I say you have the wrong employer if you're getting that legal advice.
So I just wanted to add something, 2 things, is that my biggest mistake was I stayed at my first job for too long because I got comfortable with the steady paycheck. This was my first job out of school. So I recommend that no matter where you work, even if you're happy, to build can I swear? Your fuck it fund. For your effort funds, so that one day when just things just go wrong at work, you can quit. And you don't have to stay there, because one of the things about, especially if you're thinking about entrepreneurship, it's a huge privilege to be an entrepreneur, to work without knowing when that next paycheck is coming. So I'm 36, and I'm 2 months into finally being an entrepreneur after 10 years and working for myself. And it's because, thank you, it's super scary, but I realized I had to, try it. And I've had many jobs too, and I change every few years, which is totally normal. But I could only do it because I saved up that fund. So for these 2 months, even though I'm like scared, it's like I have enough money to pay myself while I'm figuring out, even now I'm still figuring out exactly how I want to do it. So having the privilege of having that little nest egg to be able to quit your job, try something new, take some time to figure it out, it's a huge privilege. So no matter where you're working, no matter how happy you think you are, I think it always helps to have some kind of plan B, whether it's putting $25 away a week, $100, whatever you can. I was saving up for my condo, so I put $25 a week for 3 years, and I had $10,000. So you can think of $25 a week. And then when I moved into my new condo, this has nothing to do with business. Paid for everything, and I had no debt. So $25 a week. Some days it was hard, so I put it down to $15 a week, right? So just have that plan B. You never know when something's going to happen at your job. Maybe they just go out of business, even if you're happy, right? So have that backup plan to give you the freedom to figure out what you need, what your next move is going to be.
I wholeheartedly second that. I learned that early on. I was in a job that I just couldn't stand. I was young, and I couldn't quit because I was living paycheck to paycheck, and I just didn't have a choice. And I made sure that never, ever happened again. And it never will happen again. If I don't like my job, I'll just leave. And that's a really a freeing thing. Takes a little while to build a nest egg, but do it.
So what are your thoughts on formal education versus boot camps and the less traditional ways of learning?
I think.
So what's your thought on like formal education versus boot camps and less traditional ways of learning and kind of learning on your own? What would you say on that?
I would love to answer that because I actually find I hire a lot of people who are self-taught or have gone to BitMaker Labs and all these other types of things. I actually often find that they're better entry-level employees than recent new grads from university, because they may have come from, I think the main reason is because they really want to be there, right? They wouldn't have gone there, they wouldn't have done that if they didn't really want to change their career or get into this thing. We have a very high-performance engineering team where I work, and we have some really great people from there. When I mentioned earlier that I had mentored a lot of people who turned out to be great technical leaders, they were almost entirely people who were self-taught or took different types of same thing, private courses to learn a new technical skill or whatever, and these people turned out to be like the most fantastic. So I think it's really a great route. University is good too, that's what I have, but and also many others, but don't let anybody tell you that if you have that kind of an education as opposed to a degree that you're somehow less or not as likely to get a job, because I think that's just not true.
Go ahead. Okay. So in SF, literally, there's so many dev boot camps, and there's so many graduates every 3 months from one of these. And I recently spoke to one female engineer from there, and she was talking about how difficult it is to get a job just because they don't value it as much as a degree from a university. And she was saying how going into interviews, they were okay with subpar answer. Like, she felt like that was the attitude towards her answers. They were like, oh, you're a woman, so I accept this from you. That's the vibe that she got. And I was just asking her what exactly she learned, and I went to university, and she definitely learned more than me. She was a full stack engineer. She knew everything. She was so passionate about, like you said, she was so passionate about it, which is why she even joined in the first place. And we host meetups at PubNub itself, and you have no idea how many people I met who said that they're librarians who are becoming developers, or like doing something completely, teacher becoming a developer. And there is a need for those kind of developers. So, and people realize that they like it. So why won't you just do a dev boot camp and come out of it as an engineer? But that said, apparently they're seeing a lot of success. So my company itself, I think, is very open to hiring these kind of people, because all they want is someone who's really passionate, someone who knows what they're building, or knows what they're learning, and is always learning more. So I think it's a great idea, because I mean, not everyone has the time to spend 2 years in university or spend the money for university, right? So if you just have 6 months, it's 3 months, you might as well just do it.
Hi, I'm Cal, and this is more of a general question. Do you find that in the workplace, regarding kind of like junior women coming in and looking up to senior women as potentially like sources of like knowledge or like mentors, is there ever some type of competitiveness, because it's kind of difficult being a woman in like a tech industry, and maybe they're not like as willing to share their knowledge or their information?
I've not seen that myself. I mean, because first when I joined, I had all these amazing women in marketing and like sales as well as engineering themselves, and everyone was really willing to impart what they've learned, and everyone was very open to telling me, this is right, this is not right, like do what you want to do, that kind of environment. So I haven't seen it, and that's my experience of it. There's no sense of competition at all. Everyone's very willing to share what they've experienced.
Yeah, I reiterate that. I've not seen competition with sort of mentoring. You will get some people that don't want to mentor somebody, but I've never seen competition in sort of any of the companies I've been with.
I wouldn't say I've seen competition per se, but I've been working in like women in tech spaces for the last 2 years. So that was like all the work I did basically. And I was actually surprised to see how many women would still have the same views that we were trying to fight, whereas sort of like thinking the man was more correct than the woman in the room or something like that. So I don't know if I'd call it competition per se, but we all come up in the same environment. So that means we, even as women who want to help, may still have some of those feelings as well. So to just sort of like, again, I think I said this earlier too, to kind of just be prepared for that not every woman will want to mentor or who want to share or be able to identify with the kind of help that you're looking for. And I just wanted to go back to your point about the schools. So I've taught in boot camps and in colleges. So for me, I sort of just feel like it's a very personal decision. What environment do you think you can thrive in? Because from the teacher's point of view, I've seen fantastic students come out of my college classes and as well as my boot camp classes. It's really what that person was willing to put into it. The environment itself, for me, I didn't see that much of a difference. The only thing in college is it's longer. And then the boot camps it's faster, but you have to pay more up front. So a lot of it is like a very personal decision of like which situation will work better for you. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take one last question for the evening back here.
Hi, thanks. Just a quick question. I just feel like a lot of times with women in the workforce, like you said, you can't talk about it without bringing up that choice to kind of take a step out momentarily to start a family. And I just wondered, how do you think that affected your career growth? Did you plateau when you came back? Did it negatively affect you? I hate to put it that way, but I just feel like so many times it comes up like it's one or the other, and I think I'm naive because I haven't hit that point. but I want to believe that you can have the best of both worlds.
So I don't see that it impacted my career at all. I have 2 kids. The only thing, when you take a mat leave, you have to stay current with technology because the world keeps going depending on how long you take on that mat leave, and you have to be able to get back into the mainstream of things, is my only observation. I did 1 mat leave with a US company, and I'll have you know that they only get 6 weeks. So that was one of the hardest things, coming back 6 weeks after giving birth.
I don't think having kids really negatively impacts your career unless you let it, because you can let it impact your career negatively. Or actually, I mean, if it's a choice you make, that's also a good enough choice if you want it to be, not as important for you after you have kids. But that's something you will know once you have kids, because some women do choose not to go back to work. I didn't. I like working and I love to have a career. And I actually feel the other way. I think being a mother actually made me stronger and made it even clearer for me what I wanted in my life and in my career. I am very much more conscious about who I work with, what kind of people I work with, what kind of environment I create around myself. I think it has definitely boosted my career instead of being a negative impact.
Okay, so I think that's it for this evening. Thank you so much to Monika and to all of our panelists for being here. Great audience questions. So that's it, and we'll see you again in September. Thanks so much for coming, ladies.